For almost 2,000 years, an entire Roman city sat perfectly preserved. Its bread still in the ovens, its wine still in the cups, its people frozen exactly where they fell. Not buried by time, buried in an afternoon. This is the story of how a mountain that nobody feared erased a city in 18 hours. I'm Professor Atticus Stone. Grab a shovel. We're digging up Pompeii. Welcome to Brick History, where the biggest moments of the past get rebuilt one brick at a time. Today, we're going back to the year 79 AD, to a sun-soaked Roman resort town on the Bay of Naples, living happily in the shadow of a mountain called Vesuvius. There was just one problem. Nobody in Pompeii knew that mountain was a volcano. To understand the tragedy, you have to see what was lost. Pompeii was loud, rich, and wonderfully ordinary. Around 12,000 people lived inside its walls. Merchants, bakers, politicians, and partygoers. There were bathhouses, a 2-story amphitheater, fast food counters serving hot stew, and election slogans scrawled across the walls like ancient social media. Bread baked fresh every morning. Gladiators trained for the weekend games. Ships came and went from the busy port. It was a normal Tuesday in a town that had no idea it was living on borrowed time, because that beautiful green mountain on the skyline hadn't erupted in living memory. To the people of Pompeii, Vesuvius wasn't a threat. It was just the view. Looking back, the mountain did try to warm them. 17 years earlier, a massive earthquake had flattened much of the town. They'd simply rebuilt, bigger and grander. In the days before the end, springs and wells mysteriously dried up. The ground shivered with little tremors. Dogs barked at nothing, but the Romans had no word for volcano and no science to read the signs. Earthquakes were just earthquakes, annoying, but normal. So they patched the cracks, refilled their cups, and got on with their lives. The mountain kept its secret for one more morning. Around lunchtime, the mountain stopped keeping secrets. With the force of many atomic bombs, Vesuvius blew its top, firing a column of ash, gas, and rock over 20 miles into the sky, so high it flattened out into the shape of a giant pine tree. Across the bay, a teenager named Pliny watched it rise and described that exact shape, giving us the very first scientific account of an eruption in history. Then it began to fall. Not lava, pumice, light, hot stones hailing down on Pompeii by the millions, hour after hour, piling up in the streets, on the roofs, against the doors. The sky went black at noon, and the people of Pompeii faced a terrible choice: run or hide. Many did run, pouring out of the gates in the dark, pillows tied to their heads to fend off the falling stones, racing for the boats. Thousands got out and lived, but thousands more stayed, huddling in cellars and back rooms, waiting for it to pass, slowly being sealed inside by the rising tide of pumice. And out on the bay, one man sailed toward the nightmare on purpose. Pliny the Elder, admiral, author, and the most curious man in the Roman Navy, turned his fleet straight at the eruption to rescue trapped families. He would save many. He would not save himself. By midnight, Pompeii was buried up to the second-floor windows, and the worst was still to come. Just before dawn, the towering column ran out of strength and collapsed. That was the moment everything changed. Instead of falling, the mountain's fury now rushed, a glowing avalanche of gas and ash before the pyroclastic surge, hotter than 500 degrees, racing down the slope at the speed of a hurricane. It hit the neighboring town of Herculaneum first, then turned on Pompeii. There was no outrunning it. In moments it swallowed the city, and everyone still hid it. The bodies were gone, but the ash set hard around them. holding the empty shape of their final moment forever. Then the surges came again and again, until Pompeii simply vanished beneath 20 feet of ash. By the time the sun rose, the city of 12,000 was a smooth gray plain, silent. For 1,700 years, Pompeii lay forgotten under the fields, until 1748, when diggers struck the buried city and realized the ground was full of rooms. And here's the part that gives every archaeologist chills. The bodies had rotted away, but the hardened ash kept their shape, leaving perfect human-shaped holes in the rock. In the 1860s, a clever excavator named Fiorelli started pouring liquid plaster into those holes. When it set, he pulled out exact statues of the victims' final seconds. A mother shielding her child, a dog still chained to its post. That's why Pompeii is the most important archaeological site on Earth. It isn't a ruin of how Romans died. It's a snapshot of how they lived, their menus, their graffiti, their pets, their bread frozen mid-bite. And Vesuvius, it's still very much alive, with 3 million people now living in its shadow, exactly like the Romans once did. Pompeii is a tragedy, but it's also a gift. A whole world paused so we could walk back into it 2,000 years later. The lesson the Romans never got to learn: when the ground starts shaking and the wells run dry, listen to the mountain. If you enjoyed digging up this one, hit subscribe. Next time on Brick History, we're cracking open a tomb that came with a curse and the explorer who ignored every warning. I'm Professor Atticus Stone. Keep questioning the view from your window.